Wildfires. We don't know when or where they will strike. We only know that it's just a matter of time before they do. A look back on the history of wildfires in our area reveals a quiltwork of conflagration, with every decade in recent history having at least one major event.
So in the Santa Barbara front country area, we have a significant history of wildfires. And our conditions have changed over time. You know, in the 1910s, we were not as highly populated as we are today. And today we are, have a significant amount of homes within what's our urban wildland interface areas that have burned, have a fire history of burning, and will continue to burn over time. It averages out to about one major fire every 10 to 15 years.
In response to the inevitability of wildfire, in 2004, the residents of the most vulnerable areas of the city acted to do something about it.
So the Wildland Fire Suppression Assessment District was established in 2004 as a result of a vote from homeowners who decided that Santa Barbara City needed a little bit of extra protection in their high fire hazard areas.
That extra protection comes in the form of 3 programs funded by the assessment district. They are defensible space outreach and education, road clearance, and chipping. Defensible space is a strategy that aims to reduce fire fuel and vulnerability.
Defensible space is the area around the home that's been purposely managed and maintained in order to reduce the impact that wildfire has on a property.
A defensible home takes into consideration your entire property. And there's 4 components. The first component would be the vegetation that's surrounding your property. The second component would be to look at your access. The third would be looking at your building construction. You know, is it fire resistant construction? And then the last component would be looking at, if there was a fire at a distance, how would your home respond to embers?
Defensible space is a landscape that is broken down into 4 zones, with the area closest to the structure being the least densely vegetated and flammable, and the furthest being more natural.
So 0 to 30 feet is a fairly open, characteristic planting with low-growing plants with a lot of hardscaping. The second zone tends to be more succulents, still kind of an open concept, irrigated plants. The third zone tends to be more Mediterranean types of plants, you know, not quite as open as the first 2 zones. And then the last zone is zone 4, which tends to be more of the native plants.
For evidence of the effectiveness of employing a defensible space strategy, all you have to do is look to the hills. Many of the homes that survived the T and Hesesita fires 8 years ago wouldn't be there if it weren't for defensible space.
So when we bought the place 2 years after the T fire, I guess, this house had burned down and not rebuilt. The one behind it, this one still hasn't rebuilt. This one had not yet rebuilt. So really the only one you could see standing right here is this single surviving house and ours. It was pretty well set up in terms of defensible space. You see the oaks around the property, but not too much other big vegetation near the home. No branches of the oaks that hang too close to the roof line. There's nice wire meshing over any of the vents to the house. The home itself is made of adobe, so that's helpful. There's only a limited amount of exposed wood on the outside, and then the clay tile roof is helpful for fire reduction.
So the house behind us burned and the house in front of us burned, but there were firefighters on the street, and they couldn't catch every house, but fortunately we had done our defensible space clearing, and so they were able to stay.
And that's the true power of defensible space. It reduces the chances of wildfire getting to your home while increasing the chances firefighters can defend it.
Sizing up a fire for firefighters, they're looking at protecting a structure, but first off, they're looking at protecting their lives.
Firefighters have a split-second decision when they're working during a wildfire to assess and determine which homes would actually be defensible, and a large way that they do that is making sure that homeowners have done their defensible space and what's visible from the outside of the home when they approach a home during a wildfire.
Defensible space has other benefits too. Native plants use less water and require less maintenance, and with proper vegetation thinning, you may gain access to more of your property.
We got together with our neighbors that summer before the T and did a lot of clearing. I mean, so much clearing on this side we didn't even know the contour of the space between our two homes. That's how thick it was. And so it was amazing, and it was much more beautiful after we cleared it.
While the principles of defensible space are simple, knowing where to start can be daunting. And that brings us back to the Wildland Fire Suppression Assessment District.
So inside the Wildland Fire Suppression Assessment District, any homeowners can contact us and we'll be happy to come out to their property and assess their defensible space on their home and work with them one-on-one to make sure that they're creating an effective defensible space around their structure and on their property.
And to me, it gives us information, but it also lets them know the property. And so if they want to come up here and stage, I'm totally, that's totally wonderful.
Probably every couple of years we'll have a fire person come by and say, what do we still need to do? And this year it was the bottom of the garage doors, rubber gasket thing that goes along the bottom. He says, those are worn out, and that's right where the wind, will suck it in. And that had never occurred to me, so we replaced those. Of course, that wasn't expensive or time-consuming, but it was like that, that locked up that area.
A few little tips we had here and there. For example, there's this plant, these sumacs, that's a volunteer and really invasive, grows so quickly. And so the fire department pointed out where the sumacs were growing near the base of the oak trees, that creates a fire ladder, and that even though they're far away from the house in the canyon, that's one thing we could do to really minimize the risk of fire, is to cut all of the sumacs annually.
Establishing and maintaining good defensible space drastically reduces the chances a wildfire will destroy a home, but it also increases the amount of clippings generated. The second of the 3 programs of the Wildland Fire Suppression Assessment District addresses that problem.
And homeowners can take vegetation that they've cut, clearing their defensible space around their home, place it on the side of the road, and then our crews come by and we'll chip and dispose of that vegetation for no additional cost.
We've also unfortunately seen the effects of both fire and the drought, and we've lost 4 oak trees since we moved in just 6 years ago. We like to keep some of the wood for burning fires in our fireplace, but then we also are left with a lot of extra wood that is hard to get rid of in just your little green waste bins. So it's great having a pile that we can just set out and have the fire department come and chip it and not have to worry about disposing that wood.
The chipping program can save homeowners a lot of money and hassle, as well as provide a valuable resource in the form of mulch.
If homeowners are interested in obtaining any chips that we've produced through our chipping program, they can contact us at the fire department and we'd be happy to set them up and put them on a list to receive any of the chip vegetation that we've produced through our chipping program.
But mulch in the high fire hazard areas has to be properly placed.
It's a compromise between drought, what do you do for the drought, and what do? You can't just, for drought, you don't want to have everything bare dirt.
And we recommend not spreading any chips directly up against the home. When spreading chips around the property, we recommend a 30-foot distance from the structure itself so embers don't ignite those chips and those end up blowing into the home, creating an additional hazard.
Cut vegetation is picked up once a year and needs to be placed properly at the street. For detailed chipping instructions and chipping dates, residents of the district can go to santabarbaraca.gov/WFSAD. The third program of the Wildland Fire Suppression Assessment District is road clearance.
We're 10 feet wide and almost 10 feet tall. So as you can imagine, we need every bit of access as we can.
To give fire personnel and residents every bit of access possible, the Assessment District initiated a road clearance program.
And each year we clear approximately 14 miles of roadways inside the Assessment District. And during that road clearance, we really like to focus on our major evacuation routes. And the primary reason for our road clearance program is to help the ingress of first responders that are coming in during a wildfire event and the egress of homeowners that may be evacuating during a wildfire.
The road clearance program works with homeowners to maintain aesthetics and privacy while providing the room firefighters need.
We want to maintain a 10-foot horizontal clearance of overgrown vegetation from the side of the roadways and also a 13.5-foot clearance from the edge of those roadways vertically. And they are not forced to have our crews maintain any of their hedges or their road clearance work. That being said, it is important that homeowners understand that they're required to maintain that road clearance at a year-round basis and to make sure they understand just how important it is that they maintain that on a regular basis and that vegetation isn't getting too overgrown on the roadways in front of their homes.
Combined, the defensible space, chipping, and road clearance programs of the Wildland Fire Suppression Assessment District make our most wildfire vulnerable areas safer for residents and first responders alike. Through education, fuels management, and better access, City Fire Department staff hope to reduce the severity and damage of this dangerous and inevitable fact of life on the South Coast.
You know, we know that we're going to have to live with wildland fire. So the Wildland Fire Assessment District gives people the tools to reduce that impact of wildland fire, to make our community safer as a whole.